Hello, thanks for stopping by the channel. This is Dusk for the Nintendo Switch. This is a first-person shooter, horror game I guess, developed by New Blood and released in 2018 for Windows, and October 2021 for the Switch. I have this one actually on a cartridge that I got from Limited Run Games, but you can buy this on the eShop or Steam, and those are actually probably easier ways to get a hold of this game these days. Dusk is a first-person shooter horror game, but you have lots of guns, so how horrific is it when you can fight back like this? Turns out, not that scary. Until maybe the invisible goat monsters show up, and they take a chunk out of you. I was not mentally prepared for this, and it threw me a bit, so yeah, nice. It's a shooter that's designed to have a retro feel. It's going to look and feel like similar Doom-styled games from the 90s, and its graphics primarily are going to be styled in the same way. You will get higher details in other areas of the game, like the splash screens before you start. Those are going to be a little different. You also have a bunch of options you can actually access to adjust the colors. You can make this one seem even more retro, but I've been fine with the way the defaults are set up, so I haven't gone too far down that path. Dusk is one of those games that's really about shooting, more shooting, and then going to get ammunition so you can shoot some more. You're going to be fighting a bunch of horror-type movie enemies, basically. The most standard enemies are going to be these hooded cultists, and then there are also army personnel. They're going to be living scarecrows. There's this horror nurse type of thing, and there are these mutant goats kicking around, and there's a bunch more. It's kind of backwater cult demon type stuff mostly. I gotta be honest, this one's actually a pretty fun game from the start. We're talking, I'm barely a minute into this game and I'm hooked. It feels a little like the game Blood. That's a PC game from the 90s. Or the game Hrot, H-Rot, which is something that I reviewed not too long ago off Steam. All of them are great games. So this one looks great, the enemies are fun to mow down, and the weapons they give you are pretty fun to mess with. You get a basic arsenal of weapons for this one. Your handheld weapons are your most basic, and here you get a pair of sickles. You don't get to use them that much, but they're certainly fun to use when you have to. You're going to get pistols. There's going to be a pair of single-shot shotguns. Those are pretty fun. There's going to be a double-barrel shotgun, a machine gun, a rifle, and a crossbow. I tend to rely on the shotgun and machine gun a lot for the most part, but I'm also playing on the middle difficulty. I imagine your reliance on specific weapons is going to shift depending on the difficulty that you select. When I got to the second episode, I was also surprised to see that there were additional weapons. There's a spike thrower, there's a grenade launcher that wasn't in the first episode, or at least I couldn't find one in the first episode. Maybe it was just the way I was searching. We have 3 main episodes, and each of these episodes has 11 levels to defeat, and they don't all blow by that fast either, so there's plenty of gameplay here. The episodes are all connected, but they have some sort of basic themes to them. The first zone is outside in the backwoods. The second is you found a military base of some sort that's doing weird things with the paranormal, I guess. And then the third level, or third zone anyway, is this weird, evil parallel dimension that's quite fascinating. By the time you get to the third stage, they actually do mess with the formula just a bit. Like, they start you out with a sword. There's no sword elsewhere in the game. That was a lot of fun. And then they also started changing up some of the enemies. It's good. The level designs here are really decent. There are plenty of hidden areas, lots of stuff to pick up, and they're just interesting. They're all different mazes that you have to figure out one way or the other, but they're never too unsolvable. The backwoods levels, they're windy, they look like they fit in with the creepy countryside, and they're filled with plenty of enemies. The military base has a really nasty feel to it, and the deeper you get into it, the worse it gets. It seems that they uncovered some type of an artifact, perhaps, and they've been running experiments that haven't been turning out so well. Then the third episode picks up from the second, and you're basically in another dimension. It's pretty interesting. I mean, directly, they don't push too hard on the story elements. They give you a basic outline just by the way you get your way through the game. And they give you enough to let you realize what's going on, but not so much that you have to really understand exactly what happened. It's really just giving you an opportunity to do some shooting. You have a health limit, of course, and you also accrue something called morale from time to time when you pick up these certain items. Morale makes it so you take less damage. And I suppose this is kind of like the armor you get if you were playing the game Doom. It's similar. You're going to have items hidden all over the place, and there are going to be your standard color keys that you have to find to open the associated door. We're talking standard red key to red door type of stuff. Nothing too complex in that regard. The bosses that they have in the stages, they also turn out to be pretty interesting. Suddenly there's some creepy, gigantic monster goat running around. Something basically that's going to soak up a ton of ammunition, and usually when they pop up, they're completely unexpected. Or at least for me they were anyway. This game also has a bunch of little things that it employs to sort of make the game feel more entertaining. Occasionally you get these teleport pads that will just blip you to a different zone. I mean, there are cultists performing magic, so maybe that isn't that abnormal. There are also jump pads that can launch you up and on top of buildings. Fun little mechanics like that. They help keep things moving. Getting up on a roof just to get some enemies or to get some extra supplies in some places. I like that. You can also interact with some of the items in the levels. You can find a barrel or a box, and usually you can destroy them, and even sometimes there are things inside. However, if you pick up these boxes or barrels, you can actually stack them, and in some places that's useful. You can use these underneath an opening that you can't reach, or maybe you move them up next to a fence, so you can jump over the fence. It's one of the ways you can get into a bunch of the different hidden areas of the game. You can also destroy certain walls. If you have a grenade launcher or a spike thrower that causes an explosion, you might be able to get to a hidden area. You also get this little slide maneuver that's pretty slick. You can slide under certain walls or openings, and you can even use it in a fight. It's generally pretty useful. I'm also happy to say that your character can jump. I know a lot of the shooters from the 90s didn't let you jump, they just didn't have it as an option. I'm really glad it's here. Dusk also lets you save or load your game on the fly, which is fantastic. If you get through an area, you just press down on the directional pad and it'll save your game state. You press up and it'll load the last save. This works exceedingly well, especially when some of the levels start to get messy. It is awesome to just save after you've upgraded yourself. Awesome. The music and sounds for this one, they seem to fit the subject matter pretty well, and every now and again you also get to hear some sort of a demon voice speak up in the distance and say something creepy. It's good stuff. The one thing that this game doesn't have that I wish it did was that there's no loading animation. You never stop to load your guns. You just keep shooting. I know this is minor overall, but I really would have liked this to be a thing. That 1 or 2 seconds of you being vulnerable when you have to reload, it's just something I've come to expect in games like this. As of doing this review, I'm on the 3rd episode. I think I'm 3 or 4 levels into it, and I'm really loving this game. It's just monster-killing fun, and I'm kind of bummed that I didn't put this one in my Switch earlier, because I've had this game for a while. This chip also installed something on my Switch menu called Dusk 82. Dusk 82 is apparently another Dusk game that they built. They kind of rebuilt the game in a way where, I guess this is what it would be if you found it on home PCs in the early 80s. This is what I would expect to see on a Commodore 64 or an Atari PC. I played it a little. I went through a few levels, and I have to say, it was really unexpected that they gave this to me on the chip to begin with. And it looks great. I mean, it's certainly interesting, and it's this fun little puzzle type of a gameplay. You pick up bullets, you shoot enemies, you move and shoot the explosive barrels after you've pushed them to the right spots. It's a decent free game that I was not expecting, so thank you. Well, that's all I have today for Dusk for the Nintendo Switch. If this is your type of video, please feel free to like and subscribe to the channel and all that good stuff, and thank you for stopping by to take a look. Hope to catch you on another video.